Thanks for joining me. My name's Gary, and I just wanted to introduce to you some different trend indicators and how they might be used just to give you some maybe new ideas, suggestions, because this is not actually about just placing winning trades. It's not about expert advisors. It's not about those kind of things or when to get into trade, when not to. This is just all about finding the best trend indicators for you that might be different from a trend indicator for me. So they're all a little bit different, but maybe hopefully this will be a new idea. Let me get started here and let's pull up, just a plain um, chart with starting with trend lines. A lot of people want to trade with just trend lines, which is really good. Here's a 30-minute chart for the US yen. And as you can see, when we broke a trend line here, that's a good time to take a short. And we can go to different time frames and see basically how different time frames might be able to put on a trend that gives us a little more information. And had we been doing this to begin with, we might have placed that trend line somewhere, in here. So this tells us somewhere in here we should be looking for a short. Um, and that would seem to work out really well. Now the question is about this trend line. The one we're on right now is always the tough one. It's always okay to, or easy to look back in the past, but is that going to be here? Or is there going to be maybe something that opens up here? Where exactly were we going to put that trend line? So initially, you see there is some resistance there. But a good way to do that is to look at your past trend lines. Because if we look at, say, this trend line, which we might have put that somewhere in there, and we carry it over to this area, so they don't quite match. A lot of times they do. Um, and if we open up another trend line, let's say down here, and bring that one over and see how that one matches. You see, they don't always match either, but I've heard a lot of people say trend lines will duplicate themselves. So that's not always true. Now this trend line, you can see there was a little pop-up, but that could have been a trend line that you would have followed, actually helping you get into the play a little bit early. And we can do the same thing if we open that up to even a bigger time frame. We have the opportunity to maybe put a trend line across the tops, a trend line across the bottoms, and actually those are probably pretty strong trend lines. So if we took out some of these other ones that we put in here and took a look at that, and look at where we're at today, probably get a little better idea of where it's probably going to head, somewhere down in this area. And we could even do some support and resistance lines to give us an idea, because there's some good resistance right in there. We've got a top here, one here, a bottom here. So probably down in here, it's going to be a good resistance line. So this works really well, at least for giving you an idea of when it may turn. So one thing I've noticed is that a lot of times people put too many different indicators on their charts trying to find, or trying to justify when they get into their trades and so forth. But usually it's better to have just one way of looking at a trend, maybe two. So adding trend lines to whatever your indicators are is always a really good way of just double verifying when those turns are going to take place. So if we left those trend lines on here for now, and we could actually say, some of these trend lines, being that that's support, we might want to change the color a little bit, and that's resistance. We might want to change that color to something that, give us a better idea of where we're at. And then we can start adding different indicators. So let's take a look at them. And let's pop over here to a fresh screen and change that to a clean screen. We can always go back and look at that indicator again later. And let's pull up some of the different trend indicators that I've found over my experience that I've liked. Most of these we've kind of narrowed them down to ones that I do like. And this one is basically a zigzag indicator. It tells you tops and bottoms of different resistances, and basically like using boiler um, or Bollinger Bands. Um, when they're hitting the tops and bottoms of Bollinger Bands, and we're hitting some zigzag, they really do give you a good um, indication of when there might be a turn. So this is a pretty good indicator. Now it does repaint because the tops and bottoms can change. So what this one is just an idea. It's not something you're going to want to trade by. But if you add this to resistance lines, it's a lot easier to add them to resistance lines, taking the major bottoms, taking the major tops. We've got a couple there, um, and we've got another bottom down here. That gives you some really good resistance lines right there, just based on these tops and bottoms. So this is called 3-level ZZ semiform. It's a multi time frame, which I kind of like that. So if we were to look at that indicator, we could actually change that to, say, a daily time frame. Now it's kind of locked into daily, and then it eliminates a lot of that chatter that we saw before. So if we do that and go to dailies, we're going to see some super major trend lines here. So we've got some tops and some bottoms, and some major turns. And if we do something like that, it gives us a lot better visual of some long-term trends. Of course, you'd have to live with some of these ups and downs, and sometimes we don't have good money management, so that's difficult to do. Like in this one, there's some major ups and downs, but we could actually take these smaller time frame indicators, and when it comes down here and you see that show up, get out of the trade. When it shows up again, get back in the trade. So that would have been another way. So this is really a good way to trade a little bit more long term, setting this up in a different time frame, because we can go back now and analyze lower time frames and still keep the settings of that time. So that would give us a little bit better indication of what's going on, so we could see where the real tops and bottoms are. Now let's look at another one here. If we pull up ADX crosses, you've probably seen these before. These are pretty good. They can tell us tops and bottoms on a bar. Now this bar setting, right now you're looking at a 30-minute bar, which is kind of choppy, but we can actually put a 240-minute bar on there, get rid of some of that noise, and see where we might want to take, shorts and longs, give us a little bit better trend changes. Now, in fact, you drop that down to a 15-minute chart, get a little noise on there, and you can see those are some nice uptrends, giving us some warnings again. So that's one that you might want to take a look at. It's called ADX crosses, and that's non-repaint. And we could even change that to, a little higher time frame and get it a little bit cleaner and just tell some direction. So that's an option. Let's get out of that. And now here's one that I really like. It's the awesome indicator. Now it's very similar to a MACD, but it includes moving averages with it. So let's take a look at an awesome indicator. And if we enlarge that a little bit, now how most people trade these is when it's below the line, we're short. When it's above the line, we're long. And so basically we can do short and long, all day long and get some quick, quick pips here. But what I like to do, again, I like to do different time frames so that I can stay on a 30-minute chart. But I can look at this. Let's say I've got a couple of them here done already. Here's one. This is a 240 time chart. And you can say we would stay in this short all the way down to here. Now we're back into a long. So that would give us a trade from all the way back to, let's turn that off a little bit. But that would give us a trade from short all the way down to somewhere in that area. That's a nice trade. Okay. We can also get some warnings because this tells us, we've kind of hit bottom. So we could have actually got out of the trade here and been in a little bit better shape and know that it's starting to head up. It might not take a long until it turns green, or you might take a chance on a small position long. But then here we'd want to take a position long. We've got a little bit here. It's starting to show some weakness again, but again, it can show weakness and strength a couple of times and still continue in that direction. So you either get out of the trade or we stay long, but we don't go short. And that's a good way to trade that. You can actually maybe do that on a 240 to, and then also do one that's 14, a full day to give you an overall trend. And now you know that green, up is the major direction still, even though that's coming down. So when that hits green and that hits green, there's a good chance that we're going to have a pretty strong uptrend now. So that's a really good indicator. And one indicator I found that I like is combining that into a full bar chart. They've got an oscillating indicator like this that will show you all the different time frames at the same time. So we can adjust the settings on them, but that way you can see, a 30-minute time frame and a 60-minute time frame, and a 240 or 4-hour time frame, and a daily time frame all at one time. So that's a really, really good chart too, and that's a 4-hour or 4 time frame awesome oscillator. So that kind of combines everything together. And we can clean that up again too. Now we've talked about a couple of them here. Now Bollinger Bands is another really good one. You can see here, I believe that's in the trend section. This is the one that comes with your trading station or your MetaTrader, and you can see when it hits tops that it's really hitting some resistance. And so if we're in an uptrend, we want to pick bottoms to buy. We don't want to get into a trade when it's already up here close to the top Bollinger Band. We want to wait till it's down here in the lows. So if we were trading this and had a trend line on here like this, we want to try to pick these lows to buy into. We wouldn't want to get them when they're up here at the top of the current Bollinger Band. Now you can see that there's other options of taking a look at this, other ways of taking a look at this that might be a little bit better. There's one that has changes the candle colors. You see when it's above the Bollinger Band, it's green. When it's below, it's red. Kind of giving you a better visual of when you want to take a short. When it gets below the center line and starts heading towards the bottom, it's red. Above the center line, heading towards the top, it's green. That is a real good way to play. But one awesome thing about this one is that you can change the time frame again. So maybe we want to sit on a 30-minute time frame, but we want to see a 240 time frame, so you can really see this is all a short. Now we're going long. Now we're going short. And if you want to eliminate a lot of the back and forth and choppiness and take a little longer term trades, this is a good way to do it. This is an awesome way to take long-term trades and get a visual for different time frames, because we can look at that in 30-minute time frame and an hour time frame and see we've got some nice long trends based on the Bollinger Band in different time frames. And that one, as you can see over here, these are the names of, this is a Bollinger Band stop at candles. So it's changing the candle color. It's a multi-time frame, and it gives us alerts if we want to have alerts turned on. Or we can do one where we have the alerts down here in the bottom. That's a real good way to look at it too. So this is one where we can do different time frames again. Current time frame is 1 hour. Maybe we want to set this for a 4-hour time frame, and it'll show us we've got short and longs without all the chatter, and these are really good ways of taking long terms again. So that's where we might take our buys and sells. Or now if you combine that with trend lines, you can see we may have gotten out of this trend right here, but when you see our short show up, you get back into it. We're still in a short. And I'd add the second trend line. I see one there. And that will probably correspond. So if it crosses that, you're likely to see this turn green and back to green again. So, but these are quite long time frames. This is almost a month, month and a half long-term trend in the up. And here's a short. That's again going several days. So depending upon your style, that might be something you want to take a look at. Now there's also one that I found called half trend. This uses channels, and it uses moving averages. And this can be a little closer to telling you when things are going to be moving. Now see here, we still have a lot of chatter, but it does give us some places to put our stop loss, which is really cool. So we can look at that a little bit closer. And you can see stop losses are placed up here or down here. And when it breaks that, it's probably going to change the time frame, or when it breaks this one. So if we're in a bear market, if it goes above that, we're going to go back into a bull market. So we can do that on a current time frame, or again, we can drop back, analyze the 30-minute time frame, and change our indicator here to a, if it's 30-minute, might want to just change it to an hour. That's going to eliminate a little bit of chatter. Or if you're into a little bit longer time, holding a little bit longer, we can back out and see what that would look like. Got a nice long short, getting back into a long. I don't know why they do blue either. Never understood that one. To me, visually, it makes a lot more sense to do. Your greens and maybe something like that. So you can tell it makes more sense to me that green would be up here. You want your support and resistance lines. And those support and resistance lines are really based on daily averages. So they're a pretty good indication of when we're overextending ourselves, and if we're in a downtrend, when it may be ready to change. So it's a really good idea. And this one too. And again, you can combine that with trend lines, get a good idea. Here, this one's already turning up, so it's a little bit quicker. It's like this one that we had before too. This one really gives you some indicators of when things might change a little bit ahead of time. You've got a possible bear here, and that gets you out of the market a little bit early. So this one might get you in and out of markets a little bit quicker. That one again, this is one that's called half trend. This, I love multi-time frames, so most of mine are multi-time frames on the charts with these channels showing you resistance and support. Now all of these indicators, I can actually send them to you. They're free indicators. Ones I've found on different websites. At the end, I'll actually show you some links to some websites where you can find some additional indicators. And here is another moving average indicator that works real well. This is kind of a combination of this one down here called Hinken-Ashi. As you can tell, it's very similar to that, but it combines the moving average. And we're again looking at a 30-minute time frame, which could give you some good, indications when to get in and out if you're trying to trade 30s. But moving that up makes a big difference. Takes a lot of chatter out. Helps you tell when the more major moves are going to be. We've got a short, we've got a long, and here they go again, changing it to blues. So that helps a little bit too. So we might use something like that, or as you'll be able to tell, we can combine this with or show you how it compares to the Hinken-Ashi indicator. Let's change that up to a 60 minutes or a 240. And this might be one where you use them in combination. That's a short and that's a short. Take it until it gets ready to change. Do it again. When it turns short, take it again. When they're both in combination, then you can take it. So that's a good way to see, kind of a double proof. Take all your longs when it's long in the long time frame and in the short time frame. That's another option. Now that gets us down to about half of our indicators. We're going to do another video with some of the other indicators so you can watch for that. Now I wanted to show you also some of the links to where I find indicators and let you know how you can find me too. We've got my website up here, Twitter and YouTube sites, but here are some great locations for free indicators. And of course, everybody's probably using the MetaTrader 5 or MQL5.com site. That's a good place for expert advisors and indicators as well, although there's not a lot of multiple time frame indicators here I haven't found. We kind of have to do some searching for those. They're a little more difficult to find, or you have to have somebody code them. And we've got some great websites down here too if you want to actually analyze your own trades. I always suggest these. They're excellent. TradingView.com is a great way to build your own charts that are a little bit more intricate than the ones you might even be able to get on MetaTrader, and you get to share ideas with a lot of other traders. So that's a great way to see how other traders are putting their time frame or their charts together and kind of compare yours to theirs. And otherwise, we'll see you on my FX Trend Tools website if you want to see an excellent indicator or actually tool to help you find trends in all the different time frames. I suggest you go take a look at that, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much.